Hello, my name is Carl Bianconi. I'm going to be talking about in what ways can Susan Collins facilitate the success of CPK. A thing that Susan Collins should consider is to continue expanding domestic and international branches because customers really like California Pizza Kitchen. CPK is considering opening at least 60 new branches soon. It is not a cheap project, so Collins needs to figure out what the most appropriate capital structure is to move the expansion project forward. We believe the best course of action is stock repurchase, which would come in handy since the stock dropped approximately 10%. With these shares repurchases, we can expect that there will be a higher value for CPK stock in the future. The repurchase will not be the only factor weighed in that will increase the stock value, but an increased return on equity and reduced cost of capital. California Pizza Kitchen might consider using debt financing, even though they need to avoid adding debt to the company. Also, Collins should increase the company's marketing expenditures since they are the only company with less expenses marketing wise. This increase in the marketing section, there will be an increase in sales because they will be able to attract more customers. California Pizza Kitchen has three main revenue sources, which are royalties from different franchise restaurants, royalties from Kraft Foods, which are their partners, and sales of the company owned restaurants. To therefore expand in their businesses and make more revenue, CPK should merge or create new partnerships that will lower their cost of goods sold.
Well, hello guys. My name is Gaspar, and now I'm going to be talking about how leverage will affect the return on equity for the company, and how this will also affect the cost of capital for the company. So, in order to address the question, we had to see the scenarios given by the case, which was increasing the debt levels by 10%, 20%, or 30%, and after our calculations, as a group, we believe that increasing the leverage for California Pizza Kitchen, this will increase the return on equity for the company. This is demonstrated by our calculations, which indicate that a higher level of debt will in fact turn out to be a higher return on equity. This could be maybe explained because proportionally every time we increase by 10%, 10 points or 10% the level of debt, it will decrease the book value of equity for the company, which result in a higher return on equity. And even though we are experiencing a lower net income because we have a higher interest expense, it compensates proportionally. And all of this was demonstrated in our calculations. Moreover, guys, in order to understand how much the leverage will impact our cost of capital, we had to recalculate our betas for every level of debt. The beta indicates how risky a firm is, and according to our calculations, the more debt the company will go through, the riskier the firm will become. So after adjusting our level of betas, we also have to adjust the cost of equity, which is directly affected or impacted by our betas. So with our new betas, that we got three different ones based on the three scenarios given by the case, we could calculate our cost of equity, and in the long run, this will affect, of course, the cost of capital. And after calculating all of the different factors, demonstrating our calculations, as a group, we believe that increasing the leverage will decrease the cost of capital for the company. This is explained maybe by the importance that equity and debt will affect the company, the more we increase the level of debts, and also because the company becomes more riskier every time. So it turns out to be that the cost of capital for California Pizza Kitchen turns out to be lower the more we increase our level of debt. So just a little bit about the numbers. The beta before going to any debt level was at 0.85, and at a 10% it was at a 0.87. At 20% level of debt it was at a 0.89, and at a 30% level of debt, it was at 0.91. Our cost of equity, every time that we increased the level of debt, it increased the cost of equity, of course, which is kind of obvious, and the cost of capital. In my opinion, the difference between 10%, 20%, or 30% level of debt, it's not that much. Big of a difference. At a 10% level of debt, the cost of capital using the weighted average cost of capital is at a 9.26%, while at a 20% level of debt, it's at a 9.21%, and at a level of debt of 30%, it will be a 9.14%. So, in my opinion, the level of debt will not impact that much the cost of capital if you decide to go to a 10% level of debt or a 30% level of debt. But it's still very important for the company to understand their needs and understand how debt and equity will impact the needs of the company.
Hi everyone, my name is Sebastian, and I'll be talking about questions 3 and 4 on our California Pizza Kitchen case of this week. For question 3, we were supposed to base our analysis of the previous question and anticipate the share price under every one of the different scenarios depending on the cost level that the company should incur, and also how many shares would the company would be able to repurchase under each scenario, and what role does the tax deductibility of interest play in encouraging debt financing at CPK. Based on our analysis, we calculated the present value of the tax shield. Our tax rate was 32.5%. In order to calculate the post-announcement share price or the new share price after incurring the different level of debt, we use the current price or the current value of the of our equity, 22.10 cents. These was we had to add the added value of the debt to our shares. So in order to do that, we multiply debt times the tax rate divided by the number of shares outstanding. What varied in the different scenarios was the debt level incurred, or the quantity of debt incurred. For our 10% case, it would be 22 million debt. For the 20% would be 45, while a 30% debt level make us have around a 67.7 million of debt. We calculated that we obtain a 22.35 value in our new share price, 22.60 for a 20%, and for the 30% at 22.85. Moreover, to calculate the number of shares that could be repurchased, we just divided the total debt times the new price of the share. For our 10% level would be around 1 million, 0.69. For our 20% would be almost 2 million, and for the 30% level would be 2.9 million. Moreover, the role that tax deductibility of interest play in encouraging debt financing at CPK can be explained by the simple fact that expense or debt can be tax deductible. So this makes the actual cost of borrowing lower than the one that the interest rate would actually mean. This is a really good benefit for companies that want to incur debt at any level, because this accounting benefit would impact in a positive way the after-tax income and make it cheaper to borrow money and fund expansion and growth. And for our last question of the case, we were supposed to say what we think what the capital structure policy should be recommendable for CPK according to our point of view. We decided to go for the 10% level in this case, and we based our recommendation on maintaining the risk levels of the company at a low or a reasonable level. Our beta would be of 0.8704. It's not a really bad beta, and we would at the same time promoting expansion and being able to repurchase 1 million shares, which would be beneficial for the company. Let's remember that they suffer a decrease in the price. We believe, or the management believes, that the stock is undervalued. For that reason, it would be a good moment to repurchase. It would be better if we were able to repurchase more. We would have to incur much more debt, but we just decided to stay at the 10%, not only just because of the risk, but because it aligns with the actual goals that the management has set. It's really imperative to remember that at the beginning of the case, the management really specified that they want to keep their power, or the same power of the company over the years, and that they don't want to be really leveraged. They don't want to owe a lot of debt. So according to the goals set by CPK and the benefits that this debt level would give to the company and to all its investors, we decided to stay with that 10%. Moreover, let's remember that it is important to, in the world of finance, as we have seen it, it's really important to keep stable prices. It would be alarming for investors to see a really high increase out of nowhere in the stock price. So keeping a constant and steady growth level would be the best case scenario for CPK, because probably the stock, in our opinion, is gonna even increase more after announcing all these borrowings, obviously, because their expansion and expected growth. So thank you for listening.